Welcome to Food Talk for Health, because you really are what you eat. Here is your host, Tonia King.
Joining me today is Barbara Weller, editor of FoodTrients.com and all the cookbooks that go along with it that we're going to learn more about today. Barbara, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me.
Let's dig into FoodTrients. What's it all about? What does it mean?
Well, I'll try to keep this short, but we met Grace O, who's the author of the cookbooks and the founder of FoodTrients 13 years ago. And we were so excited to see that she really did have a unique place in the world. And she's been talking about food as medicine for many, many years. And so we helped create FoodTrients as a brand and the cookbooks and the website. And we have Dr. Mark Rosenberg, who's a cancer doctor and anti-aging expert who contributes to the website. And he also wrote the foreword in our new book, Anti-Aging Dishes from Around the World. And we have a nutritionist who's on board who we love, Ginger Holton, who vets every recipe to make sure, we want to make sure, and Grace wants to make sure that we're not making any claims that aren't science and research backed. So, and the great news is that all this good for you food is absolutely delicious and tasty. And Grace is so good at creating recipes that taste good. I have tasted almost every recipe that's in every one of her 3 cookbooks. So I can testify, and I make many of them myself. And people who, when I entertain people who taste them, they're amazed and they love them. So anyway, FoodTrients is really about the nutrients in foods that help keep us healthier, that help us age better. We can't go backwards, but we can live a more vital, energetic, healthy life, and what we put in our bodies matters.
Food as medicine is just so important, and it's something that really more people need to educate themselves on. And it sounds like Grace is really a great vessel to make that happen.
She is. And I've always had an interest in health and food, but I have learned so much. I spent 20 years or nearly 20 years as a journalist myself. And so this was an area that I had a great interest in. But, Grace knew so much, and she's discovered and we've discovered together some interesting foods like baobab from Africa. It's a fruit that no one had ever heard of. At least we didn't know anybody who'd heard of it until we used to go to the food expos in Anaheim every year. And we met a woman from Africa who was, talking about some of the African foods. And she was telling us about baobab, which is a fruit that looks like kind of an ugly sweet potato, but it's a little harder shelled, I think. But it's a powder, and it's loaded with vitamin C. And so Grace created baobab butter bars or butter squares, which are like lemon bars, but they're even better if you ask me. And, she's been using moringa, which is a huge, it tastes a little less like spinach, or spinach with less flavor. And it's very popular in Asia. It's a huge immune boosting food that we have here in California growing on trees. But who knew you could eat those leaves, that they could be so good for you. So we have tons of things. Like we just have a cake recipe in our new cookbook, dawa dawa chocolate cake, which dawa dawa is a spice that's just got incredible properties that are anti-aging, that are healthy. So we do a lot on spices too, and we have spice mixes. So this has just been over a decade of learning and researching, and we just have great contributors to FoodTrients, to the website. What I do love is that every recipe in our recipe section on the website has we have 9 benefits that we work toward in our recipes, and there's these little icons, and each recipe shows you the icons that tell you if it's an antioxidant, an anti-inflammatory, it's good for your gut health, it's good for beauty or skin, it's an immune boosting food. So at a glance, you can see the properties or the benefits of each recipe.
Where does Grace originate from?
Ah, good story. Well, and she grew up in the Philippines, and her father was a doctor, and her mother owned a culinary school. And so she grew up in that culinary school. And when her mother died, she was 19, and she ended up taking over that school. And ultimately, she wrote a food column for the newspaper in Manila. She opened restaurants. She started FoodTrients there. And then she came to the US, gosh, 30 years ago now, and she ended up in the healthcare world. And now she owns skilled nursing facilities throughout California. So that's what she's always had, this food and medicine background in her life.
How interesting. And I mean, there are so many spices, herbs, and plants that we don't even realize are out there that can make a big difference in our health. And it sounds like FoodTrients is really a great place to learn more about all of that.
It is, and it's fun, and we try to make it very conversational and easy and accessible. And you don't have to know or understand all the science. You just need to make some of these good recipes. And, this is not a diet plan. It's just really a way to incorporate better foods and better tastes into your dishes and food.
And, it gets more exciting when you think about what you're eating and making. It really might make a big difference in how you feel.
Yes, and just even knowing, I don't there's a big thing out there now called Senolytics. I don't know if you've seen some of the things on the market. And it's really they're right now there's supplements, but they're based on things that are in foods that help repair your cells. Autophagy is something that happens in our body when you start repairing those zombie cells that are aging us and making us sick. So even apples, soybeans, curcumin, which is it's in turmeric, and it's a lot in curry. But if you take enough curcumin, that's a great anti-inflammatory. And so there are all kinds of foods that are just acting like medicine in your body and helping your body heal.
And when you say that, there are so many. I think the thing is to choose. How do you choose what works best for you? Or how do you learn what works best for your own health problem?
Well, I think that's a great question because as AI comes into our lives more and more, I really think from what I am learning and understanding that it is going to be a revolution in the medical world for personalized medicine. And that's really, I think, going to be a game changer for so many people because medicine has kind of been about one size fits all. And I think it's really important for us to be advocates for our own health and to understand, doctors don't typically know much about nutrition. They don't learn about nutrition. So, a lot of times you'll go to the doctor and you'll say, "Oh, I have a headache." And they'll say, "Well, here's a painkiller." Maybe there's something else going on that's causing that, or maybe they're vitamin deficiencies. I mean, look at memory loss can be so many different for so many different reasons, and it could be a B12 deficiency. So there are things you really need to learn yourself to advocate for yourself. But I think the beginning is just trying to understand what these foods can do to help you. And everybody's different. Maybe you have digestive problems, maybe you have diabetes. These are all things that you really need to start paying attention to what you're putting in your body and how it's affecting you. I think that with diabetes particularly, they're learning so much more about how to take things out or put things into your diet that are going to help you. And I think, we're excited about all of that and all of the future that could be coming. And as medicine gets a little smarter and more personal, it's only going to help people.
Well, I know, when you talk to a functional medicine doctor, they look at trying to get to the root of the problem.
Yes, I'm a big fan of Dr. Mark Hyman, and he does a lot of interviews with people
Oh,
who are
yeah.
out there on the edge doing great research. And in fact, I just signed up for his functional health beta experiment. Well, it's not really an experiment, but it's in beta right now, where they do much more extensive blood testing so that they're looking at nutrients, which is really important. And they're looking at leads or heavy metals, all kinds of things that you don't typically get when you're getting a blood test. So
They're offering something that digs deeper.
yes, and it's good to know, it's good to eliminate those things before you assume that someone has some disease, or there's so many things like digestive problems. A lot of doctors, there's sort of a protocol that you'll go through, and if that doesn't work, I'm not sure they know what to do to help you.
You're right.
Uh, and it could be due to either a deficiency or heavy metals, who knows, or mercury. So there's so much in our environment that it's really important to understand. And honestly, I'm a supporter of knowing what supplements you need as well, because I'm not sure we can get everything from food.
Well, it's true. It's probably a combination. And I think that's where educating yourself really does make a big part. We're talking with Barbara Weller from FoodTrients. It's a cookbook, it's a philosophy, it's a resource. Love that. Those are great taglines, Barbara.
Oh, thank you. Well, and our website is very, very deep in terms of content. We've been at it for over a decade. So there's lots of information there, lots of good recipes. And, if you're looking to learn more about any of your own health issues. In fact, one of the things that we were just looking at and that Grace has done that I just love to tell people about is that she has started a foundation, the Grace O Foundation, where we've just done, and we're not quite finished yet, with 2 studies that we're doing with Cedars-Sinai. And they're just a great research hospital in Los Angeles. And the 2 studies, one is looking at the incidence of prostate cancer in Black men is higher than it is in the general population. And they're trying to look at, could diet and lifestyle, help mitigate that in the African American community. The other study that we're doing is based on the treatments for breast cancer for women, that, the after effects and the damaging effects that chemo and radiation have. So we're looking at how diet and lifestyle can affect and improve those outcomes. So I'm excited about that. We hope to be doing some more research. I was just looking at a study that McKinsey did with the World Economic Forum, where they're looking at women's health and the research, or lack thereof, of the funding for researching women's diseases and women's health issues. And I think, there are people out there who are really fighting to draw attention to the need for research, whether it's PMS or menopause or all kinds of things that women deal with. And there doesn't seem to be much other than painkillers, or very little that's being done to help offset. And I think there's a lot that could be done that's probably not that hard.
It's so great. It's coming to the forefront. You guys are really a big part of keeping it alive.
Well, I hope so. And I think, Grace has been committed to this most of her life, and she has been in the trenches here for quite a while. And now there are a lot of people out there and doing very similar things. But I do love how she has brought all this knowledge and all of uh, the work that she's done into some really good recipes and lots of good information on the website. In fact, we do have a newsletter that, God, we'd love to have people sign up for. If you just go to foodtrients.com, you can sign up for the newsletter. And right now, for free, we're giving away a booklet. It's a PDF that you can download that does list the 50 the 50 top foods for longevity, and it has 20 recipes and it has some menus. So it's a really good sampling, if you will, and a nice piece to have, which is totally free if you sign up.
I think that sounds exciting. We are talking with Barbara Weller. We're talking about FoodTrients.com and everything that goes along with it. And Grace O, who is pretty much the curator of all these dishes and cookbooks that we still have yet to talk about. So I really appreciate your time today, Barbara. And again, it's foodtrients.com.
Yes, yes.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you.
You've been listening to Food Talk for Health. Eat well to be well.
Food Talk for Health is a production of Creative Voice and Media. Our theme music was written and performed by Rick King. We hope you'll take a moment to subscribe to this podcast. Thanks for listening to Food Talk for Health.